Hi everyone, my name is Nazir and I am a GMC registered doctor from India. And in this video, we'll be looking at how to write an appealing supporting information for your NHS job applications. So before I begin, I would like to mention that there are a couple of videos that really helped me in my CV writing and how to write an effective supportive statement. So I'm just going to link them down below in the job description. You might want to have a look at them before you start applying. So let's get started. So once you decide to start writing your supporting information, first thing what you want to do is have a look at the job description and person specification. So I'm just going to open these two in two different tabs on my computer screen and you can have a look at it. So this is the PDF files of a particular job, and you can see the job description clearly mentions what sort of duties and responsibilities you will be having during your work and your rotas and what proficiencies you are expected to be having and stuff like that. So that's really important if you go through them so that you can reflect that back in your supporting information, meaning you'll be able to elaborate how good you are at history taking or carrying out ward rounds or working in a multidisciplinary team, or even carrying out leading consultations if that is given in the job descriptions. So you can just go through the job description and reflect it back into your supporting information. The other thing that you want to look at is the person specification. Extremely important. So it usually comes in a tabular column. You can see there's an essential criteria and a desirable criteria. So what you're expected to do is read through this and put it in your supporting information how you meet these criteria. At least most of the essential criteria and some of the desirable criteria. It all depends. And some person specification also has another column which explains in what way you will be assessed for this criteria. What does that mean? So when you read through the person specification, there are a number of criteria, including communication skills. So most of the communication skills might not be, or your ethical practice cannot be completely evaluated based on your supporting information. So they're going to evaluate it again in your interview. I hope that makes sense. So you realize that most of these criteria are going to be evaluated in your CV. So that is why it is extremely important to have an appealing and excellent supporting information, because probably this is the part which the employers are going to read first once they begin shortlisting. So, and you always want to make sure that you get it first and you get shortlisted the first time. So how do we begin the supporting information? So as you read the subheading of the supporting information, it states that you are expected to read through the job description and person specification and demonstrate how you meet all the different criteria and how you stand out in your talents and what you can offer for this job. So that is what they expect you to do in the 1,500 words that are allocated for you. And you also have to show why you are applying for this job, why you are interested in this job, with valid reasons. So these are the two tasks that you have to do. So let's begin writing the supporting information. It would be a great idea to have an opening statement, briefly about yourself, what you are, if you're GMC registered, okay, if you're working on a GMC registration, that's it, or if you've done your post-graduation, maybe in a single line you could describe what you are so they have an overview. And then you can move on to describing why you are interested in applying for this job. So instead of mentioning out points, it would be a good idea to use the CAMP approach. That's the CAMP approach. This approach is usually used for interviews and we'll be dealing with that later on. But for now, I'm just going to briefly explain what the CAMP is. C stands for clinical experience, A is for academics, M is for management experience, and P is for personal. So how do we frame our answer around this? So you want to start with C, clinical, which is what does this job have to give you clinically? meaning experience wise. So if it could be a FY2 level job, and you could start with that you want to work at an FY2 equivalent level because you want to gain the FY2 proficiencies, or if it is an FY1 level, you want to gain FY1 proficiencies, or if it's a junior clinical fellow, you can mention that you've it's probably you have the FY2 proficiency, so you want to strengthen them or something of that sort. So if it's a job in an ICU, some of the jobs mention that they'll teach you how to put up a central line or the IV access and difficult lines and stuff like that, very rarely. So you can pick them up from the job description and put it down in your CV saying that, okay, so this job is going to offer me, experience and help me improve in putting up IV lines or central lines or whatever that is. So do you understand how we can apply something from the job advert and put it down here? So they really appreciate that you've gone through the entire content and you are someone who is genuine and really want the job. Also, just try to relate what clinical experience this job has to offer. Just think over it, sit for like a couple of minutes over it and then brainstorm your ideas and then put it down into a, type it down somewhere so you can just keep reviewing it. Alright, so that's the C part. The A would be academic. What does this job has to offer academically? So most of the jobs you will see have, a scheduled teaching program or a weekly teaching sessions that happen for IMTs within the trust. If you've done an attachment, you can relate to what I'm saying. So you can mention that this job does offer me some academical experience of attending classes or learning something, or even some jobs help you get your ALS within the first 6 months. Very rarely, some jobs. So just go through the jobs, and then if it does offer that ALS support, you can definitely bring it back into your supporting information, because this job is going to offer me this. I'm interested in this job. All right, in terms of management, so management includes your audit, your research, your teaching, the teaching that you do, and a couple other things. But to briefly, these three are the ones that you want to focus on. So if that trust is closely linked to medical colleges or research centers, you probably have scope for research, coming up with a publication or doing a study or whatever that is. And also you will have the opportunity to be surrounded by FY1 doctors or medical students, so there is an opportunity for teaching. So you want to utilize all that stuff. So you want to show that you really excited for this job, because this job has so many opportunities for teaching medical students or taking part in research, or there could be some research that is happening within the trust. How will you find that out? You will have to read about the trust. All right, it's okay, it's available online, it's in the NHS, and that's not a problem, but you might want to go back and read that if you're interested in research. Okay. And audit, yes, definitely audit is something that they really respect and appreciate. So if you're interested in audit and this job requires that you work with an audit, so you can just put that up as well. So that so all these stuff you can summarize into 1 or 2 paragraphs. Just try to make it short, crisp, and really appealing. You will have to sit over it like a couple of times until it becomes perfect, but that's all right. And finally, P stands for personal. So why are you personally applying for those jobs? Maybe it's in Manchester, I like Manchester. Maybe it's in London, I like the rush of the city, I want to be a city person, something like that. So you can explain your reasons why you're applying for this trust. Maybe you've done an attachment and you definitely have an advantage because you already know how the system works. Or you have family around, or you want to bring your family into that good spot, it's a safe place, something like that. You want to relate why personally you're applying for this job. So the CAMP approach provides a very well organized thing, so it is quite readable to the employers, or in fact for yourself as well. The next half is going to focus on how you meet the person specification and all the criteria. This is something which is very important, and it has different sections. I want you to take a look at the person specification table again, and you can see that there are several subheadings to it. Your qualifications, your educational qualifications, your clinical experience, your audit experience, research experience, communication skills, very important. And there could be a number of headings for different sorts of jobs. So how do we focus on each of these headings? There is no option for formatting the text. We cannot make it bold, nor can we underline it. So what you can do best is maybe put up a subheading with caps lock, so that your paragraphs stand out and it's well signposted that you're going to talk about a particular heading in the next paragraph. So that's a good idea to frame your answer. And then you might want to put up each of the headings. So the first heading states professional qualifications, which is usually the same for all the job adverts. So they need you to demonstrate that you have completed the MBBS. So a statement like you did your MBBS or you received your PMQ in so and so date would be more than sufficient. Or if they require GMC registration, you can just type down when you received your GMC registration, or if you've already applied for GMC registration and awaiting the response, just type that down. And the desirable criteria in qualification requires MRCP or any other higher equivalent exams. So if you are someone preparing for MRCP or MRChem or MSRA or any other exams, just type it down there. You have booked the exams and you're preparing for it, or you are planning to book the exams and you're preparing for it, or maybe you plan to take the exams next year or the year after that. Just instead of writing no, I do not have an MRCP, you can take it into a positive sense and say that I will hopefully be doing it, or I am working on it, or something like that. Make sure everything in the CV stays positive. There should be no response where it's a no or I don't. All right. The next stuff is the clinical experience and skills. So since this is a job for emergency medicine, they expect you to have any skills or experience related to emergency medicine. So how do you substantiate it? It will not be sufficient if you say that you have worked or you have experience in emergency medicine. That's a incomplete statement. How do you complete that? You can substantiate it by saying where you have worked in emergency medicine, or for how long you have worked, and what all you gained from working there. Maybe you've gained how to work, how to manage stress in a busy environment, or how to do effective triage, or you've learned how to take quick history and focused examination. I'm sure you must have learned a lot of things. So just put the relevant things down into your supporting information. And one thing I want to mention is that whenever you write down that you've worked at a particular post in any department, it is necessary that you write down at what level you have worked. So if back home in India, if you say you've worked as a duty medical officer or a resident medical officer or a junior doctor, it's a broad term and does not necessarily say what sort of duties you might have taken. So you want to translate that into something that the NHS can relate to. For example, the internship would be something FY1 equivalent. So you can say you've done your internship in 2 months posting in emergency medicine, or 2 weeks posting in emergency medicine at an FY1 equivalent level. The next part is audit. Audit is such an important thing in job application, and it really makes your CV stand out if you've done, it really makes your CV stand out if you've done an audit. So I do encourage everybody to take up an audit before PLAB 2 or after PLAB 2, or whenever that is convenient for you. And it's also a good idea to go through videos or attend seminars or online meetings or teaching sessions regarding audits. So all that can be put up in the CV, that you've done so and so, you've learned, you've done your own research about audit, because it's not something that is taken up in your home country, and you've really gone ahead and studied about it. So that shows that you are a hardworking person. You work towards continuous professional development. And if you have done an audit, just put it in detail, all right, where you've done, how did you do it, and what was the change, what was the outcome that happened. So all these stuff must be covered. And unfortunately, if you've not done an audit, that's okay. You can definitely mention that you are working on it and you are looking forward to any opportunities, or you're studying about it. So always try to stay positive for all the answers. The next category is research. So similarly, if you have research experience, just type it down. I'm sure most of us have done a research study as part of community medicine during our med school, so that is fair enough. Or you've done any publication, been a second or third author, or any sort of thing, just type it down there. And The next part is communication. So this comes in most of the jobs either as trust values or communication or your English language skills. So how do you elaborate this? It wouldn't be sufficient to say that I am good at speaking English, or I'm good at communicating with patients, or just making statements might not be sufficient. You will have to go ahead and elaborate why you think you're good at English, why you think you can handle patients, even tough patients. The best way to do this would be examples. So if you make a statement, you're good at English, you can handle English language well, you have to relate to the OET or the IELTS score. You've got this much score and if you've cleared it, so that validates your English language skills. The second thing, patient communication. You can obviously mention that you are good at dealing with patients by giving an example, maybe from your work, from your internship, where you dealt with a difficult patient and the patient was willing to comply to the treatment after you spoke to them. So that really made a difference. So that shows how your communication skills can be put to use in clinical practice. Also, there's another way to present this in a third person format. So instead of saying you believe you are good at this, you can say your colleagues have always mentioned that you're good at this, or your supervisor has always appreciated how good of a team player you are, or how good you are at leading things and stuff like that. So that's also a good way to present this. It is highly recommended that you go through the Good Medical Practice PDF, which is available for download in the GMC website. It's hardly a 40-page PDF, and it gives you a really good perspective of the clinical care and practice in the NHS and what do they expect from us. And I'm sure you can take in points from there, and you can provide examples based on what is mentioned in the Good Clinical Practice. So the second last heading would be teaching. So most of us have teaching experience in terms of teaching our juniors, case discussions, or bedside teachings, or handling mannequins. So whatever it is you've done, even if you've taught nurses or any other medical staff, or you've done voluntary teaching outside of med school, you've taught some kids or anything of that sort, you can go ahead and put it down here, not into length, because there's another section particularly dedicated for teaching, so you don't want to be very repetitive, but it is good to mention 1 or 2 lines regarding your teaching. So whenever teaching comes up, you have to say what you've taught, to whom you have taught, and how you did it. So how would be either you gather everyone and you did board-based teaching, or just a presentation, or you could have a case discussion, or it was a bedside teaching, or you used mannequins, or anything of that sort. You can just put it down here, how you did it and what you gained from it. That's a very good thing to mention for each of the headings, what you gained from team working, what you gained from any leadership experience. So that's a good way to put it. All right. The last one is team working. This is something very, very essential for working in the NHS. And how do you demonstrate you're a good team player? It is a good idea to Google down, what are the good team working skills, or how to become a good team player, and then you can take points from there. Just mention a couple would be like, being a good team player means that you respect everyone's opinions, you appreciate each one's effort in decision making, and then you also provide valuable output and take in input from others, and that is something which is required for team working. And you know how to share responsibilities between the different staff. And another thing that usually comes up is the leadership skills. So when they ask you to substantiate leadership skills, you can give an example of, maybe you've led a team of doctors or a team of juniors in a task or in a procedure. So that's something you can type it down, and it need not be very procedural. It can be anything else, any experiment, any study you did where you were the leader, or any initiative where you were the leader. And always good to add a note on what you gained by doing those leadership experiences, or what you gained by having those leadership experiences. So once you do all of this, your supporting information should be long enough. Yeah, it should be long enough, I know. So that is the thing with job applications. You keep on typing and then it gets too long and you don't know where to cut off. So that is a decision that you have to make, which is important, which is not. Just try to keep editing it and making sure that it's very appealing, and when you read it, you should feel confident. Yeah, this is a good CV. I'm definitely going to be shortlisted. All right. So if you have any further doubts or any questions, you can just add it in the comment box below, and I'll be happy to reply. And I hope this video really helps anyone out there who's trying to come up with a good supporting information. And thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.